Welcome to Built for This, the podcast where purpose meets performance. Hosted by business strategist and human behavior specialist Carly Pepin, this show dives into the real stories behind high-growth businesses. Let's bring life to your vision. Hey guys, welcome back to Built for This. I'm really looking forward to today. So today I have Roggen Frick with us, and he is the founder of Bear Ironworks. This is a contractor-built manufacturing company delivering American-made tools for the civil construction industry. With 20 years of experience by age 25, Roggen's hands-on journey began early operating heavy equipment at 3 and leading crews by 16. He earned a construction management degree from Colorado State University while launching Bear Ironworks, and later enhanced operations at FCI Contractors as a project engineer. Roggen brings precision from the field to the factory, applying lean management principles to scale his business remotely. A true jack of all trades with skills in text, design, and operations, he's a lifelong learner who thrives on solving real-world problems for contractors by contractors. So I'm really looking forward to diving into our conversation today. Roggen, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Carly, for having me on the show. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And let's start out by telling us about your company because, I talked about it a little bit, but I would love for the listeners to get more details on what Bear Ironworks really does.
Yeah, so Bear Ironworks today we make products for civil contractors, which was an industry that I grew up in. We started out by making our flagship product line, which is our Grizzly rock screens. Then we expanded to add bedding boxes, which is for trenching operations, concrete washout tubs for stormwater management, and then we're looking to add on a line of attachments for equipment, as well as finding other solutions that excavation contractors need to make sure that they can have a one-stop shop for their needs.
Okay, that's awesome. And I'm curious, what do you love about this industry? When I think about the construction industry, I love it so much. I just think it's the coolest thing on the planet that people are out there building structures, building platforms, building things for all of us to experience and enjoy.
And that's exactly it. That's kind of what made me want to be in the industry. I originally wasn't going to be in it. I grew up in it. That's where I get that lifetime of experience because my father had a construction company ever since I was born, and so I've been in the heavy equipment with him by his side my whole life. And so it's something that I've really known. I was originally going to go to school to be a film producer or do something in
Oh,
film.
wow.
I had an interest in that, but when it came time to choose a career path, I started looking and I was like, I know construction. I like building things. I like doing things with my hands. And I feel like this could be a good degree. And it's an industry that has a demand for employees. And I felt like I could have a good career there. And then I made the pivot to manufacturing. I never was really expecting that. It was something that just kind of happened.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I actually didn't know that that was something that you were thinking about or pursuing is the film production. Funny enough, that's my dad's background, so it is also a very creative industry. So there is a really creative part of you. How have you actually
Yeah.
brought that into this industry, that creative side?
I think that that's really what has helped me make this business happen because uh, funny enough, it's the skills that I didn't get educated on. It's the skills that I developed through hobbies and just interests growing up that actually helped me make this business happen. Because my business, when I started out, I was just a college student and I just needed to get some extra money and have a shop for my motorcycle. So I started out, I knew how to weld. My dad taught me how to weld. And so I got a shop and I started welding these rock screens together. But it was the website that I had built and the creativity that I had put into that website that was able to attract new customers and for me to really identify, hey, there's actually a demand for this product. This can be more than just make a grizzly rock screen, take it to an auction and sell it to get some side cash so I can eat and be a typical broke college student, but actually have a business that I can pay my bills with, hire employees, scale, and make a living out of.
I love that. So it's not just that one part of you that understands the construction, but it's also the design aspect that really actually drew people in. So it's like you use all parts of yourself. You don't need to get rid of anything.
Yeah, yeah, and my dad he always liked to nurture my curiosity. When I was growing up, my mom as well. When I was about 3 years old, they got me a computer. it was this, earlier in the 2000s, and they were like, y- y- these computers are going to be the newest thing. This is what the world's going to run on. Business is going to change. And I think my dad watched something on MSNBC, and he decided that I needed to have a computer at a young age. So he bought my mom a new computer, gave me her old one. And from there, I started to develop those technological skills. And like I said, those are one of those skills that I never was educated on, but I just happened to learn it throughout my lifetime, and that it's been a really useful skill. I'd managed to take that and combine that with my career in construction and manufacturing, um, by being able to understand software better. Because every company you go to anymore, you're using software and you're doing something on a computer. And so it was just lucky to be a curious child and have that nurtured, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think we often forget about all of the little bits and pieces that occur in our childhood that actually help us to create the dynamics that we have today. Where it is, it's something as simple as your mom and dad being ahead of the game and saying, let's go get
Right.
a computer
Yeah.
and just transforming your life as a result, like not even knowing it was going to do it.
Yeah, it really is. Some of us we start early, some of us we don't start learning until, we're adults. And then we start our journey of figuring out the hobbies and things that interest us and being able to expand upon that. We all have our different starting points, but I think it is good to be curious, and it's good to learn about different things and about the world.
Yeah, I love that. And let me ask you too, because I know when you came back in full time, right? You had taken a small
Mhm.
break, but when you came back in full time, what did the business look like beforehand? What was going on in that business before you started to come back?
So when I had it in college, it was the website kind of took off, and it was me running everything. And I had two part-time employees that I taught how to cut steel and how to weld the products together. Because they're simple enough products that a beginner welder could make them. And the welds were simple enough that I could teach them how to repeat those specific welds over and over again. And I was doing a lot of deliveries. I was going to class. I was doing all the accounting. I was doing the marketing. I was doing everything. And the business was overwhelming. It was too much. And it came to the point that I started to like fail a couple college classes because I wasn't paying attention to school. And so that was kind of the point where it's like, okay, we either need to shut this down and continue with a degree, or I need to go full in on this business. And I felt like the degree was going to be more valuable. I felt like there was still some skills there to learn, because ironically, one of the classes that I happened to fail in was accounting. While I was doing my own accounting, and it's just because I wasn't showing up to class, I was driving all around across state lines delivering products and was ditching school. And so that's when I shut it down. And then I just decided, oh, maybe I'll just do a career in construction. That's when I went and worked for FCI Constructors, went and managed a couple school remodel projects and some new builds. And then it was my dad, he kind of came back in the picture and was like, well, what if we did this together? What if we had a company together, and you could really scale the marketing side and I'll run the operations, because he really understands operations very well. And we joined together, and our teamwork and our team dynamic has been good. That has let us have a successful family business, which can be very difficult. I know.
Yeah, it definitely can, because I know there's just a lot of different dynamics that go into family businesses, especially
Mhm.
the reality that we are more willing to fight with our family.
Right.
So that comes up. Yeah, and let me ask you too, because I know that you coming back into the business actually transformed, and this I think is really cool, what the day-to-day look like. It's kind of like the thing that a lot of business owners want but haven't yet been able to achieve, where your dad's day-to-day was pretty overwhelming before you came back in and restructured it. Because what was the actual toll, how the business was structured was like taking on your dad?
Yeah, so he came back in because he wanted a career change. He was working in construction, and it was 7 days a week, 13 hours a day. He was getting burnt out because it's a very demanding industry, because there's not enough employees in construction. And so he wanted to move back to Colorado, start a business. So he started up pretty much from where I left it off. He started developing the other two product lines. I brought the website back on. My stepmother started to take on some of the bookkeeping roles, and I started learning how Google Ads work and how to further our online presence and our online marketing. And I did that kind of part-time. So he gets the operations set up and he's making these, and pretty much every order that comes in the door is custom.
Mhm.
Everybody wants something a little bit different. It's all made to order, nothing's in stock. It's always call for a quote. It's not very streamlined. So then there was a point where I was like, I'm going to go in full time on this and quit my job at the general contractor I was working at. And I'm going to help change this company and grow it even more. So I stepped in and I started going through all of the orders that we had. And I started identifying what are the most common requests. Because my goal was to standardize the product lines. So I standardized all the product lines. Then the next goal was to make a store that's easy to sell. And so I felt that since most of our business is coming through the website anyways, and these products are going all across the country, we need to set up an e-commerce store. No more call for quotes. People can just go on the website, see the price, because we need to know exactly how much it costs. If we standardize everything, we can know how much it costs, so we know how much to charge. And just started kind of building out that system, putting in software that can help us manage things because our inventory was all over the place. We didn't know how much steel we had on the ground. Definitely we're not ready to start making inventory to stock, ready to ship, because we didn't have a way to manage that. And that was really the things that transformed the company from a fabrication company into a manufacturing company, because now there's a process that's repeatable again and again and again.
Hmm. No, it's amazing. It's one of my favorite parts about just like strategies and operations is how can we streamline this to such a degree
Mhm.
that so much of it can be managed and handled without us having to go into this like deep depths of overseeing it, like doing hands-on every day. Because if you're not, then your dad's just moving from like one business to another and still working 13 hours a day, 7 days a week. And
Right.
yeah, as owners, it's burnout, you know?
It
Yeah.
is. It's
And
easy to take on too much and do too many things, because you have to start divvying out duties. And that was, I think, another successful thing is about the time that I came on, we were also looking to hire an operations manager to manage the operations fully. So that way we could focus on the bigger strategy, as well as we had one big problem that I never solved when I had it. And it was one of the reasons I was failing school was the deliveries of these products because they're big.
Mhm.
I didn't understand how logistics work. I didn't know how to get trucks. My dad didn't quite, he had a better idea than me. Like he knew he knew some trucking companies locally that we could use. And we were doing that, but the shipping was expensive. It was hurting the sales. So we hired a general manager that was an expert in logistics and understood that part. He didn't know fabrication, didn't know manufacturing, but he knew logistics and he helped us solve that problem. And the minute we got him, now this company's starting to move even smoother. And now we can ship products to customers. We can get better pricing and create more sales. And the process has just been building on from there. And then at the same time, we're able to alleviate ourselves of some duties so we're not still working those 13-hour days and long hours.
Amazing. And I'm curious too, because even the delegation component, I totally agree. And I love what you shared is like you found this guy who was an expert in what you wanted. So a lot of individuals have a really hard time letting go of past. And for
Yes.
you, it's like you're like, nope, I'm gonna get someone who's an expert, who's better than me at it. And that's genuinely what I suggest on a regular basis because it's like just get someone who's smarter than you there. Like you don't need to be smart at everything. What would you
Yes.
say is some of the mindset dynamic that you've created just growing up or you already have that allowed you to make that shift to understand, hey, I can hire someone better than me. In fact, I want to hire someone who's amazing at this.
It's funny you asked that. I think it's just the maybe it's just the I'm not good at it. I don't know how to do this. I need somebody to help me here. Because funny enough, it's the tasks that I'm good at that I have the hardest time delegating out.
Fair.
Because I'll try to delegate those out and people aren't working to my standard, or I have a hard time getting the point across, and or you're turning over employees trying to find somebody that can fulfill that position. But when I'm bad at something, it is easy for me to delegate it out. If I don't like doing something, it's easy for me to delegate it out. And I think that those are, I mean, as an entrepreneur, right, one of the things that you get is freedom, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to have that freedom if you're doing things you hate, and you're not going to like being an entrepreneur if you're doing things you hate. So find somebody that's good at that stuff that doesn't mind doing it and hire that at.
Yeah, because the other person is doing the thing that you hate, but they actually love it.
Right, right. We all
Yeah.
like different things. There's plenty of things I do in my day-to-day life that I'm sure plenty of my employees that love me do.
No, totally. It's actually the cause of burnout. And as leaders, as entrepreneurs, in general, even in life, is whenever we're taking on tasks that we do not like, we get
Yeah.
burnt out. And so when we
Yep.
pass that on to another person that truly loves it and they get energized, it's like a win-win scenario, you know?
Yes, it is. Turn your problems into a solution, or like, I guess, identify your problems and turn those weaknesses into strengths is a better way to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's fun too, because it is something to think about is like if you have a hard time delegating, just start with all the crap that is like really hard for you and you don't want to learn. Because there's a
Right.
lot that I'm really bad at. And I think, do I want to learn this? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I'm going to bring someone on board. And there's other things that I really love, and I'm actually not ready to delegate yet. Because I really love it and it energizes me, and there's really no need. And until there's a need, that one will stick with me for quite some time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you notice that theme in a lot of entrepreneurial stories, like some of these like ultra successful entrepreneurs that have came from absolutely nothing. These
Yeah.
people were like, they've had their back up against the wall and they wanted to get out of their situation, and they didn't know how to do anything, but they're like, I'm going to figure out how to do one thing and I'm just going to keep hiring people to do it. And you'll notice that they're like, I didn't really know how to do anything, but I knew how to hire people and I knew how to
Yeah.
get the people that are smarter than me on the table to help me out.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And let me ask you too, because this kind of goes into the people dynamic of the company and how you guys have created it. So I know that you guys decided to do a 4-day workshop week, right? So
Yes.
everyone loves being there. Everyone's really enjoying it. What decisions did create that culture intentionally? Like what actually made you decide to move forward with that?
Yeah, I think that it really came from our background in working in construction and working 6 and 7 days a week and just being absolutely burnt out on being at work all of the time and wanting to do other things. And when you're in the position of an employee and you've been in their shoes, then you understand why employees don't like their jobs and why people don't want to work at different companies. And so we're like, okay, well, what if we switch to this 4-day work week and it's 410, so we're still getting our 40 hours of work in. We're taking one less lunch break, one less startup, and one less cleanup at the end of the week too. So we're getting just a little bit more productivity out of it. But then you get a 3-day weekend every single weekend, and that's even if we're not the highest paying welding uh, employer in town.
Mhm.
That has helped us retain employees, and it has helped keep the morale high because people aren't burnt out working for us.
Yeah, I think that's the reality too of a business is, we do our best to actually create inspiring jobs and places where people love what they do, but it doesn't always happen. So it's kind of coming up with these creative solutions to ensure that people are not burned out by their jobs because employee turnover can be quite expensive and quite time consuming.
Yeah, and retraining people is not fun because then you're spending all this money up front to teach them again and have to do the whole process, and you're wasting time. So if you can maintain those people that you've already trained and get them so that they know what to do and they just come to work and do what they need to do, everything just goes a lot smoother. And the way that we've set up our operational team is, I think, one of the biggest successes of the company because it's something I don't have to worry about. I don't have problems with the operations. I can
Mhm.
focus on growth and marketing and coming up with these ideas of how I can expand the business.
Yeah, and tell us more how you did that. Like, how have you set up the operational team so you can step away from things and actually focus on not just what you love, but what you're best at, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of components to it, right? You've got your workplace culture and your employee morale. That's something that we is big. Safety
Hmm.
is a number one priority in our shop, and we get that from the construction industry because any successful construction company out there, you go on their job site, and I'm going to say 9 out of 10 companies, safety is
Hmm.
going to be their number one priority. So that's something that's been ingrained in me from a young age, just because of how much I've been around the industry. So we put
Hmm.
that into our shop as well. We have clean shop, safe workplace. People aren't getting hurt. So that helps with the morale. We've also developed a process, right? The process is another part of it. If you can make a process that's repeatable, trainable, and manageable, so you can train the managers to manage it as well, then it's something that can get set up so that it's running itself. And so it goes back to that standardization of the products of this is what we're making, this is what they're going to order, and this is how we handle like their little requests or little custom things that they might request. And that way 80% of your orders that come through are the same. You don't have to step in and deal with it every single time. And putting in a tool to manage all of that is also very important. We put in a software called Fulcrum, and it's a manufacturing software that lets us track our inventory, track how much time is going on each job, has an auto
Mhm.
scheduling feature to schedule out all the jobs. And that way we can track the whole process beginning to end. And so it's really just about developing a good process and putting the right people in place so that they can do that process. And once you get all of that going and get all those parts and pieces going in the right way, then it becomes just a smooth operating machine and you're not really worried about how it's running. It just runs. And you got to maintain it. You have definitely have to step in and maintain it, but it's not you are actively involved in it day to day.
Yeah, no, this is great. I have multiple questions on the whole thing. Hey everyone, it's Carly. If you're really resonating with what we're talking about and want to get clear on what truly drives you, what your core values are, head on over to my website. In the tools and tips section, there is a free values assessment. And this is a quick exercise that's going to help you to uncover what actually matters most with you so you can lead and live with more clarity, fulfillment, and momentum. I love it. Because you're right. It's like if you are doing the day to day, all of a sudden you go from business owner to business operator, right? So
Right.
putting in these standard operating procedures and making sure everything is running smoothly without you is just it is a top priority. So when you think about workplace culture, like what helps you guys create that workplace culture? Like, do you have certain core values that you follow? Like, what does that look like in your company?
Yeah, we really value safety is the number one. And we also value honesty in our
Hmm.
company as well. We like everybody to be open with it. We are open with our employees are open with us. And we're open with our customers because we want to make sure that our customers are satisfied. And that's another value that we hold high at our company is customer satisfaction and quality because the customers are really what make the business happen, right? And so we've got this culture of be safe, have a nice clean workspace, do things right, and if there's a problem, you can come to somebody and talk about it, and we're going to figure out how to fix it and get through it together. And the team dynamic from those aspects really help everybody feel like they're in working together on it and that they're not just there for the paycheck, they're not just there for the job, but they're there as a team and they're working towards achieving something, which is making the products for our customers and making sure that our customers are satisfied. And then our employees love hearing the feedback of, you guys got another 5-star review on Google. This is what the
Oh,
customer said. They're happy to, they're happy with your work. They think the welds are good and everything like that. And just making
yeah.
sure that they know how much they're appreciated.
That's amazing. So one thing that you're doing to just keep them engaged in this culture, right? In these core values is sharing the Google reviews, which I love. I think that's so important for every person in the company, whether it be the janitor to like the senior leadership team to actually hear stuff like this, because
Mhm.
everyone wants to make an impact. And when they get
Yes.
to feel that, it's you're right. It's like it inspires them. They want to do more, they want to do better.
Yeah. Yeah. And something I like to do at the end of the year is I pull up a map of the United States and I put a dot on every single product that's out there to just show them. I'm like, this is where all of your work has ended up all
That's cool.
across the country. It's on islands in the Pacific. And every one of these dots is a happy customer. And, just being able to show them that. And then when I go visit customers in the field and show them pictures of their product in Alaska or in Florida or in Pennsylvania or wherever I'm going to visit a customer at
Mhm.
and show them like your product has made it all the way out here and it's doing its job.
Yeah. So part of it is just making sure that it stays alive through all the engagement that you're having with them and kind of sharing them in these little ways. Are there any more ways that you keep them engaged with the core values outside of the things that you've shared?
The way that we keep them engaged with safety, because that's one of the biggest challenges that I think companies have is instilling safety, because it's really easy to just be like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're not being
Hmm.
safe enough, and just really um reprimanding people for doing the wrong thing. But instead, we encourage them for doing the right thing. And you have to be careful with it, because you don't want to create a culture where people are going to be lying about their injuries and they're not going to report it or things like that. So we built a culture of like, we're going to go walk out in the shop and we're looking for seat belts on the forklift. We're looking for a face shield when they're grinding. We're looking for safety glasses. We're looking for gloves. We're looking for those things that are, it's not like that way you can still report an injury if you get an injury. That way it's not like encouraging them to hide it, but we're looking for those things. And if they're all doing that, then they get put into like a lottery at the end of the month where there's prizes handed out. And so you could get the number one prize every month is you get a whole day of paid day off.
That's cool. They probably get
And
super stoked for that one.
yeah, and the minute that we started doing that, it really started
Yeah.
helping our safety go up quite a bit. Like we started having less incidents where people forgot to put on a seatbelt and
Yeah.
people were grinding with their face masks. And now everybody's like telling each other, hey, make sure you're wearing your seatbelt, make sure you're wearing your safety mask, and make sure you're wearing your gloves and things like that. And it's really helped improve that. So, just some incentives I think are
Yeah.
very positive, because people like to be incentivized instead of reprimanded.
Absolutely. I think
Mm.
everyone likes that. Even as adults, we prefer it.
Right.
Our psychology. So let me ask you a question too, because yeah, I talk about core values all the time. I love them. I think it's amazing to see companies who really are engaged in their core values and the results it has on their employees. So we kind of got to hear how you've been structuring it. We kind of got
Mm.
to hear what it looks like on a day-to-day basis, how you're sharing it, how you're maintaining it. What would you say having these core values within the company has had an impact on? How has it really helped the company to thrive? And what do you think your company would be without them?
Without them, I mean, if you don't have a set of core values in your company, then you don't have like a shared set of things or values that you stand behind. Right. And I mean, a lot of companies might have core values, whether they realize it or not, whether they've written down bullet point items and say these are our core values. Um, but really identifying what those are and then driving them and helping, incentivize them and bringing attention to those is something that is very important in your organization. I think that if we did not have that, I don't think that our safety would be as good. I don't think our quality would be as good. I don't think our customer satisfaction would be as good. Um, because you can tell that when, like, I mean, if you're doing business with, I mean, we all have to do business with somebody, our toilet breaks or the air conditioning goes out or something like that. You have to call somebody and get a hold of them. You can tell when a company doesn't have their core values and their things all together, because they're maybe they don't have good customer service, or they don't pick up the phone, or the employee just doesn't sound very happy to be talking to you. And it's those things that are going to hurt your sales and hurt your business. And so you really have to be building a good positive culture where people want to be there, because if they want to be at work, they're going to portray that positivity onto your customer base, and your customer base is going to go, I want to work with those people because they seem like they have it together and they're not going to let me down. Because if nobody wants to work at that company, how do I know that they're going to make my product properly
Yeah.
and deliver it on time and meet my expectations?
Yeah, no, that's perfectly said. You're definitely preaching to the choir. I say this all the time how important core values are, and I really wanted to keep cementing it in people's heads by hearing
Yeah.
the actual impact it makes on your business. And if you didn't have them, like how it actually would be such a detriment, because you're absolutely correct. It brings the whole team together, and that is 100% felt on the customer side of things. And also, it just makes your business, like you as a business owner, enjoy your business so much more. Like to be able to show up and have a team to work with as opposed to just trying to run around, like put out all these fires and manage all these people who really don't like working there. It really makes your job different. It makes your leadership's job different. It's amazing. Like it's amazing what it can do. So thank you for sharing those dynamics.
Yeah, it really is. And the journey along the way, I think we've rewritten our core value list. I don't know how many times we've went through it, but it's something that we've been doing early on in the company. We started out with a list of like 20 values, and we've gotten it like kind of confine down. And even if it's not something we post all over our website and brag about everywhere, it is something that I know what these core values are, and it's something that I'm going to portray to my employees, and it's something that I'm going to make sure that they're living by as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I think another thing that you had shared that I really want to reiterate as well is that every company has core values, whether they realize it or not. And it's just
Yes.
asking yourself those quality questions to pull it out because your company's already demonstrating a very specific set of core values you guys are living by. And this just puts it
Mhm.
all together, connects the puzzle pieces, gets everyone to understand it to a greater degree, make sure they know it, make sure they're living by it, they hold up to those standards. When you hire, you even hire by the core values. You don't ever want someone who doesn't align with your values in the
Yep.
company. Yeah, that'll mess up your team.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, and
Um,
if you don't like at least sit down and evaluate what your core values are, you might be surprised that your core values might actually be bad core values. If you're not critical of it and identifying what you want them to be, then they're just going to be whatever they end up being.
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, then you're stuck with those until you actually dive in and shift it.
Yes.
That's a great point. And let me ask you as well, because you were mentioning in the software, and I love this one too, is that you're tracking, like, it sounds like metrics. Are you doing KPIs for each employee? How does that work? What are you tracking to make sure that you can oversee stuff from a broad perspective as opposed to just being in the grit?
So when it comes to this is true for construction and manufacturing, because you're building things. Uh, Production times are very important. That's like one of the number one things that we're tracking because material costs, I can't really control fluctuation of that. That's going to cost what it costs, but I do track it because I do need to be able to change my pricing based on that. But production hours are something that I really look at because the way that we run the company does have influence of how long it takes to make something. There are ways that I can change the process to improve it. And so we track our time by the operation. We're tracking how long does it take to cut this product? How long does it take to weld this product? How much time are we putting into quality control? There was a period there where we weren't having like major quality issues, but every once in a while, we'd send out a product and there was like a couple welds missed or something got shipped out wrong. One time they even managed to load out the wrong color and it was like they switched up to customer orders and got shipped to the wrong place. And so then, we have to go deal with the customer and refund them or make a correction, things like that. And I was tracking quality control time and how much they were spending on quality control. So I go start looking through the records and I have 30 minutes built into every product to do a quality control check. And they were spending about 5 minutes or less. They clock
Oh,
into it, clock out, and hit complete and go through. And so I caught them and I was like, listen, guys, we need to really make sure that we're doing a good job on quality. I don't care that you're spending your time doing it. I need you to because it costs me more when I have to go and fix a product that's all the way across the country now.
yeah.
So tracking all these different metrics and the production times are very important. At the end of the year, I sit down with all of the data and I sit through all of the SKU numbers of each product and find out how long it takes on average for each product um, to make everything, analyze the costs so I can make the pricing for next year, as well as analyze is there ways that we can improve the process and is there ways that we can not just improve the process but produce. Sorry, I lost my train of thought on that one.
Ah, that's
Uh,
okay. Basically, you're going through all the dynamics of why you're tracking it to make sure from start to
yes,
finish, like everything. Yeah.
yes, how we can improve the process, but also how can we set better goals?
Yeah.
Because if we're making the product now 2 hours under the goal time, we're making it 6 hours instead of eight. Well, then I'm going to start setting that down. Okay, the goal now is to hit it in 6 hours. Can we beat that or at least meet that?
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think what's really helpful about what you shared too is all the details about the specific KPIs you're setting. People tend to get really confused with KPIs and do really broad general ones, but yours were great examples that they're there to reach very specific goals. And those
Yes.
very specific goals, it's like these are the measurements that actually are required to ensure those goals are being met. And those are the goals that are important to your company, as opposed to just
Yes.
setting random KPIs and metrics and I mean, they don't really give you as much, but these are very specific to what you guys want.
Yeah, and you got to identify the KPIs that are important to you because there's all these KPI tools out there and they'll give you hundreds of KPIs. You might not know what most of them do or most of them mean. You might know what a handful of them mean, but are they really going to tell you a story that's important? And when I'm sitting down, I sit down for pretty much the entire month of November and analyze all of the data from the e-commerce store, from the manufacturing software, from QuickBooks, from all the different data points that I have, and start analyzing different things to see where can we improve.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. It's funny because it reminds me when I first started coaching, the KPI that they told me to do was on my sales calls and how many were closed and what was my close rate and
Mhm.
stuff. And I realized at a certain point, I don't even care about that. That wasn't my business model. I wanted to provide such great service that I could just have repeats and referrals. And if I wanted to market, I
Mhm.
could market. And
Mhm.
having random sales calls all the time doesn't track that at all. But like tracking how many people repeat, how many refer, what are the top refers, like where is it coming
Mhm.
from? Why is it there? Like that gave me
Yes.
the actual necessary data. And the people who aren't repeating, the people who don't refer, the ones I never hear from again. It's like going back and getting customer feedback surveys and understanding what the gap was. Was it actually something that I was lacking, or was it just not a match, you know? And it's, yeah, getting all that data that's important to
Yep.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, like you talking about calls and stuff. I know that there's a lot of companies out there. They measure your like success as like a call rep is like about like how much time you spend on the phone, not
Yeah.
necessarily by how many sales you bring in or how many dollars revenue or anything like that. It's about how much time you spend on the phone. And so I don't run, a big call center that's trying to sell different things. I don't know if that's the most important metric, but
It's
just make sure
it's
that you do know what
interesting.
your important metrics are.
For sure, and it's funny because there's ones that I've spent very minimal time on, and it didn't last very long, but there's clients that really invested a lot of extra time in. But again, like the repetition, the referrals I've gotten have been just it's just instrumental for my business. And so I couldn't be more thankful. And so it's like, do I really want to track how much time I'm spending with them? No, they get bonus time, man. Like, I love you guys. Like, thank you so much. What else do you need? What else do you want? What else can I do? Tell me, like, how else can I serve?
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, yeah, understanding those metrics, or we're just going out there copying people, not doing things that are valuable to us or customers, and it's confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that there's no cookie cutter model for a business. So just because a successful business is tracking these metrics and this is what's important to them, unless you have an identical business, it's probably, it might not perfectly align.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me ask you too, because I know we're talking about core values within the company, within the people. What about
Mhm.
like the values that are passed on to the customer? Like, are there certain promises that you guys make to the customer that the employees are just basically paying attention to on a regular basis?
Yeah, one of the things that we try to do is because construction is always, we say it's a joke in the industry. It's a dollar short and a day late. They're always behind budget or they're always over budget and behind schedule. It seems like, especially if you're driving through a road project, you can feel that. And it's a joke, but in a sense, it's true. I mean, that's a constant battle on a construction project of trying to keep that under control. So when we get a lot of customers, they need this product yesterday,
Yeah.
because something went wrong on the job, a change happened, and now all of a sudden they need my product. So they need this now. So one of the things that we try to do is we try to keep our lead times down. And we do that by one, keeping popular models in stock. That way there's ready to ship inventory. We can just ship it out the door and get it to them. But the next thing that we do is, because our manufacturing process is so lean and efficient that we can push products through really fast, we can usually get a product out the door in 2 weeks or less. And so we're always tracking how much time we have, because, if we get a really big order, that's definitely going to push us back to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, depending on how big of an order that is. But we track that. And when we tell a customer that we're going to have a product to you at this time, we really
Hmm.
take pride into making sure that that happens. Now, sometimes the ball gets dropped. Sometimes I can't get a semi truck because there's not enough truckers out there on the road to cover loads. And we're all limited by the challenges of the economy. But we really try to do our best to make sure that we get the product to you on time, and that it's going to be a
Yeah.
quality product that's going to solve your problem.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's also, again, just to reiterate, just having those processes and systems in place to ensure that these things can move quickly. Because when they're not in place, the bottlenecks just come up so much faster, it's so much harder. But when there's just these like really standard operating procedures and everyone's following this method, like it just makes
Yep.
it easier to pump things out more quickly.
Yes, and
Yeah.
then having the main products in stock is helpful
Hmm.
because that stuff can just go out the door. And then we're usually building the stock. Our main schedule is build it to stock, but then every once in a while, we get an order something custom. Somebody wants something custom done,
Yeah.
or they need something that's not in stock. Well, then that's just pushed to the front of the schedule in front of all the rest of the inventory that's getting made, and then we can get that done a little bit faster.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's funny because it's this also really reminds me of the fashion industry. It's very similar. Everything's due like last week, last month. You're like, why am I just hearing about it now? But it was the same thing. Like if we hadn't had put the strategies, the operations in standardizing things, like we just couldn't do it. And so the more we standardize things, the more people could come to us last minute and be like, I need this and I need the final image and I need it to this person and so by this date. And it's like, we can
Yep.
do it. Like, we can do it. It's gonna be a little crazy, but we can get it done. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's just reiterating again is just have as much standardized as possible because then
Yes.
when those little hiccups come through, guess what? Like you can manage them, you can figure it out. You can put the time and energy in there instead of all the standards like operating dynamics.
Right. Yeah, I can focus my
Mhm.
attention towards the stuff that needs my attention, and that's
Yeah.
I'm even doing that same thing right now. I'm working on building out content creation and building out our YouTube channel and, trying to make videos to showcase our products. That way people know what they are and how they can help them out. And so
Yeah.
I'm trying to come up with a standardized process of just making the videos.
Yeah.
That way I can keep those coming out and still be relevant in front of people.
Totally, totally. This is so valuable. I just don't know what I would have done if I haven't done like, something on the back end. Everyone's like, how are you so consistent with your content? And I'm like,
Right.
I have a standard operating procedure for my content so I can
Yes.
be consistent with it. Otherwise, everything falls through the cracks. It'll just fall through the cracks. Yeah.
It does, and that's one of the downfalls I've had is I haven't been able to be consistent enough with the content creation of the business. We'll go through these periods where okay, we're getting a lot of Facebook posts out, Instagram posts, LinkedIn posts, and things like that.
Yeah.
Didn't really. I always tried, like I said earlier, I have the hardest time delegating out things that I'm good at. And I'm good at
Yeah.
making videos, but then I just kept pushing it, pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. Now I'm finally like, okay, I need to hire out a video editor and get somebody that can help me and build the process and start delegating the same way that I delegated the operations, but for the marketing side of the business.
Hey everyone, it's Carly. So, if this conversation is really hitting home and you want to get a real snapshot of what's working and what's not in your business, head on over to my website in the tools and tips section and you can have the business performance health check. In just about 15 minutes, you're going to see where the friction is and where your next growth opportunity lies within your company.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm curious, once you delegate that to a greater degree, what are you freeing your time up for? Like, what's the next step in the stage for you that you're wanting to invest more time in?
The next step that we're doing is, once we get the processes down of content creation and marketing and a process of launching new products, I'm going to be spending a lot of time with my dad of developing new products and new solutions for the industry because there's a
Yeah.
lot like our products are very niche. And what we've found is that if you want these type of niche products, you need to go to a different vendor for every single one of them.
Hmm.
So we want to be this kind of like one-stop shop for all these kind of niche products or these replacement items or things that you need for your equipment and for excavation. And there's a lot of different products out there that we can produce to do that, as well as just making sure that, we might even be looking towards getting other manufacturers that maybe they're not so good at selling their products, but they're good at making their products or
Yeah.
finding distributing things from a wholesaler through our site and reselling things like that. So just expanding our offerings is really what
Mm.
my goal is with the company.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that the fact even you're giving some separate examples of how to do that, right? There's the
Mm,
opportunity for you to do the manufacturing, but again, knowing maybe I'm not going to be the best at it, but there's some people who have the best product that just suck at marketing it and sort of
mm.
taking on that individual like as a manufacturer, which is also a great strategy, right? So it's like just kind of checking in to see which one works best because expansion can go to so many different levels.
Yeah, I mean, once
Mhm.
I start looking at the business, I'm like, well, we've got an e-commerce store. We're really good at shipping things around the world now, and
Yeah.
we can manufacture metal goods. Well, there's definitely I can put effort into any three of those parts of the business and grow it out more. There's opportunity in all three of those areas.
Yeah, and it's expansion based on your unique strengths, which I love. So it's not like unrealistic expectations to dive into things and have crazy learning curves. You're like, no, these are our strengths. Let's figure out how to like utilize them in this very specific way.
Yep, and then how can it complement what we're already doing is really the biggest thing.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
very cool. I love that. I love that. And let me ask you as well is so you are the second generation founder. I know you talked about that a little bit in the beginning. So what is some of the most challenging part of the dynamic and how did you guys get to the other side of that?
Of like the father-son dynamic.
Totally.
I give all the credit to him on that because he realized that I have ideas and that I have foresight for the company to be able to take it to another level that he couldn't see. And I know that a lot of dads will sit there and, I'm the dad. I'm
I'm a
not,
boss.
I know what's right. He actually took a step back and he let me take the reins and run it because I did
Um,
the first time around. I started the company, improved it, that it was a business. And then the second time around, um, I have the degree now, which is something he didn't have. He just grew up the school of hard knocks, made his way through a construction career and got successful with it, knows a lot of hands-on skills and knows project management. But when it comes to product marketing and logistics and content creation, all these other aspects that you have to do as a business,
mhm.
he let me run that. And um, he listened to my ideas. And I
That's
think that that
awesome.
was important because we have a good relationship where we can go back and forth with each other and bounce ideas off of each other and support each other in those ways instead of just one of us being in charge and the other one just running, doing things that the other one says.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And I think this is also it's going towards the art of delegation and partnership, right? Like sometimes we think about delegation and just having someone new, having an employee, an individual like that, but this is in partnership. And with
Mhm,
partnership, we sometimes focus on the things that are similar and we only appreciate those things. But when we really appreciate someone's differences, what makes
mhm,
them unique, all of a sudden we're understanding where their strengths are and then feeding that in such a way that it's like you're delegating that dynamic to them. You're helping them grow there. You're pushing them to grow there. And that's
mhm.
like a true caring relationship, when you actually understand someone to that degree and both challenge and support them to get it together and move forward in that unique genius they have.
Yeah, and we really, and that's like we really helped like nurture each other in that way because he's really good at coming up with ideas. He's a really smart guy with coming up with the ideas of the products. Like
Yeah.
he's come up with all of the ideas of the products. I'm really good at executing the products and getting them out on the street and making sure people know about them. And so that's
Yeah.
where we can help each other out a lot. And another thing to that family dynamic too, is when we're not working, we don't talk about work. So like Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner or just a weekend together that we're just relaxing. We just don't talk about work. We talk about other things and really just try to not talk about Bear Ironworks and what we're doing there and separate that family and business relationship.
Yeah, I think that's a really helpful dynamic too. Caveat, I actually work with my husband. So there have been times when like right before bed, we're laying in bed and he'll start talking about something and I just look at him like, not the time, babe, not the time.
Right.
Like I'm about to pass out. I do not want my brain working at that level right now. Go to bed. And so just even having those conversations where we're like, okay, let's try not to talk about things after a certain period of time, right?
Right.
Because there is that realistic dynamic that you also want to have, like still your normal relationship, still your normal life.
Yes, and it's a balancing act because you can't let one out hurt the other. Can't
Yeah.
let business hurt the family, can't let family hurt the business. Yeah, but you have to try to keep them as separate as possible so that you can be successful in both.
Yeah, no, it is a different dynamic, but it is an inspiring one when you can definitely
Mhm.
work with family and kind of see things pass on to generation to generation. I know it can be challenging in certain dynamics, but seeing that happen is pretty cool, like when it actually does. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you got to be realistic. Like my wife and I, we've kind of come to the conclusion that we're too strong-headed to probably work together, at least at this point. If we wanted to do a company together, maybe down the road we'll do a little bit better. But
Yeah.
you got to be realistic with it because you don't want to be like, oh yeah, no, we'll be fine, we'll get through it all,
Yeah.
even if we have differing ideas and things like that, and we argue to the point that we have to come to an impasse. But you have to
Yeah.
be realistic and go, okay, you know what? Maybe our relationship isn't good enough to have a business on top of it. Maybe it should just be a relationship. And
Yeah.
relationships change, scenarios change, so it could change down the road. But
No, they do. My husband and I are that way, by the way. We did not think about that before we got into a business, and that was something that we really had to learn how to navigate, and we really had to do a lot of personal development work on ourselves
yeah,
to sort of shift that dynamic. Because we both have that we both can be really hard-headed. We're both very strong. We both take a leadership role, and having two individuals like that can really clash. So yeah, it is true. You're accurate, and we did not understand that in the beginning. We understand that now, but it took some time to sort out.
yeah, yeah. It just makes some more hurdles to jump over. But
Yeah.
if you're willing to work with each other, you can get through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And let me ask you a question as well, because what's something that you would love to share with another founder who still is running 12 hours a day trying to hold it all together? What would you love to share with those individuals?
I would say that if you're starting your business and it's early on, I would say that you need to have a good understanding of your finances so that you can make sound decisions. And then once you have a good understanding of your finances, trying to find areas where you can spend money to hire the right people to fix the weaknesses and hire out those things that are drowning you.
I love that.
Um,
No, it's really beautiful advice.
because
Hmm.
you can only hire a $200,000 a year manager if you have $200,000 a year to spend. Same with a $50,000 a year manager, right? You have to know how much money you have to spend to solve your problems.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. One of my friends, she's in marketing. And she gets hired from time to time by startup companies who can afford her, but wind up giving up a percentage of the actual company, which is
Mhm.
interesting. So there's also a cost to some of these other strategies because now she has stake in these companies and she doesn't have to stay if she doesn't want to, but she will hold stake in your company, which is quite fascinating. So there's a cost to not
Interesting.
having cash
Right.
flow.
Right. And one of the ways that we navigated that challenge early on was time, because money is time. It's just an exchange. People are
Yeah.
giving up their time for the money that you give them. And so one of the incentives that we did to get our manager, because we couldn't quite afford hiring a manager at the time, was we gave him extra vacation days,
Nice.
more paid time off than most companies would give somebody. And
Yeah.
that can be a draw for people. So be creative with how you're going to solve your problems.
I love that. I love that. My top priority is usually not to give away parts of the company unless it really is a strategic advantage, and then you go
Right.
for it. But otherwise, you get
Right.
creative in these other ways. And as you said, focus on
Yes.
your finances.
Yes.
Uh, well, Brogan, thank you so much. This has been so informative. I feel like we've gone over so many details, so much information for people, and it's been quite inspiring. And I would really love for you to share more about where people can find you and check out Bear Ironworks so that they know where to go, which we'll also include in the show notes for you guys.
Yeah, you can go ahead and go visit beariron.com. That's our website, and that's where all of our products are. And you can contact me by reaching the general line there and asking for me, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Roggen Frick.
So, and thank you again for today. This was quite inspiring.
Yeah, thank you. I had a good conversation with you.